Update: I'm breaking up with my boyfriend of 7 years. Original post: I, 25 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 27 male, for 7 years, and I'm about to end it because of a stupid question he asked me. Like 2 days ago, we were chilling at his place, and out of nowhere, he asked me if I could ever raise someone else's child. I was confused since I'm child-free and so is he, so I said that he knows I don't even want kids of my own. He clarified that he means if I'd ever raise and accept a kid that my partner would have in an affair. Honestly, I was speechless. I don't even know what I was feeling in that moment. Anger? Confusion? I think I stayed there in silence for a few minutes before I tried to justify and say that the hypothetical child is not at fault in this situation. At that point, I was starting to get angry and asked him if he's trying to tell me something. He got mad at me and asked me how could I even assume he'd do something like this, and that it was just an innocent question. I started to feel like throwing up, so I just left his place. I haven't left my place since then. He has tried to reach out and I assume told our mutual friends about what happened, because some of them too have been reaching out and telling me to hear him out. I haven't replied to anyone. I just feel so drained and mad. He went from again trying to say that the child is innocent, to saying he's sorry, to telling me I'm overreacting and so on. I don't think I've calmed yet entirely, and maybe I will regret this when I will get back to my senses, but I decided to break up with him. I don't think I can ever fully trust him after this, even if this question was indeed innocent. He knows my family's history with cheating. He knows I lost my grandpa because he made some bad decisions after his wife cheated on him. He knows my grandma has been mistreated her entire life by a cheating man. He knows all of this, so I don't understand why he'd think it was okay to ask me this. Even if I'm in fact overreacting, this question planted some ugly thoughts into my mind that I don't think I can get rid of. And I'm gonna throw down the drain a 7-year-old pretty much perfect relationship because of a stupid question. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Tell him you would never raise someone else's child, and that you would leave him immediately if it would ever come to a situation where he made a child in an affair, and then see his reaction. Basically, play the ball back to him and observe. I was thinking the same, but opposite. Tell him, yeah, sure, I love kids, then wait for him to admit. Then stab him with a fork or something. Exactly, because if you say no and he did cheat, then he'll try harder to hide it. If you say yes, he might think he has a chance and you know sooner. My husband and I always love talking/asking those hypothetical questions. We love listening to each other's opinion. We laugh and sometimes argue about it and help us know each other better. But this case, I would dig deeper. He just asked you out of nowhere and tried to justify that the child is innocent. And then your mutual friends asking you to hear him out? So much red flag that this is not just an innocent question at all. Was there any signs of an affair? Talk to him before you make a decision, at least for the sake of your 7-year-long relationship. And talk to your friends too. They must know something. Throwing away a 7-year relationship because of a hypothetical question that you haven't confirmed is related to anything in reality? Opie's partner dodged a bullet. Opie never even confirmed it before deciding it was over. She must have been wanting to make this decision beforehand. I didn't think she had a good enough reason, so she just took the opportunity. Now for the first update. Yes, I get it. I definitely need to work on my issues and on my temperament, but cheating is and will always be a touchy subject for me. And he knew how it triggered me, which is why I had that reaction. I'm not trying to excuse it, but I'm just explaining why. Some of you said my reaction was over the top and that I should listen to him first, and you were right. I admit I might have jumped too fast to that conclusion, and I should probably work on that. So I decided to meet him and talk. We did, and at first he denied that he ever did anything, and said he just randomly thought of that question. But in the end, he admitted that he did cheat on me. He swore that it was just a mistake, and it only happened once. But the woman he cheated on me with got pregnant and didn't want to terminate it. He said that he didn't want to lose me because of a mistake, and that he loves me more than anything, but confessed that he too wishes to raise that kid, and was hoping he could do it with me because being in a relationship with me feels so natural and comfortable to him, and he can't imagine raising a child with someone else. He confessed to his friends and they told him he should try to warm me up to the idea, and since he knew that the biggest reason why I'm child-free is my fear of being pregnant, He figured that I might agree to it because someone else was delivering the baby. He told me that he was always hoping I'd change my mind, and that while he still regrets what he did, we should view it as an opportunity. At that point, I was close to losing it, and I almost started screaming at him. I know I should probably work on that too. Then I asked him why he thought I'd agree with this, when he knows about what happened to my grandpa and grandma because of their cheating spouses. And he said that this is completely different. After that, I honestly couldn't listen to him anymore. So once again, I just left. I blocked all of our supposedly mutual friends who kept defending him, and I also blocked him. I'm devastated that our relationship is ending like this, but he did the one thing that he knew would hurt me the most, and I can't see myself ever forgiving him or accepting his child, even though he is right that the child is innocent. Maybe some of you were right when you said that he dodged a bullet, because I would have been a terrible stepmom probably. Second update. Some people ask for an update, so I guess here it is. First of all, thank you to everyone who sent me their supportive words. It really meant a lot and helps me as well. Like I said in my original post, I broke up with him. After that, I blocked him at his friends, so I tried reaching out to my friends. And he also came by my place 3 times and tried to get me to listen to him. I didn't open the door and just ignored him. After the 3rd time, my best friend and her boyfriend asked me if I'd like to live with them for a while, so maybe he'll stop bothering me. It worked. I also told my parents what happened, and they were heartbroken since our families have been friends since before both of us were born, and they considered him part of our family, but they support and understand my decision 100%. They also talked to his parents and found out that he lied to them and told them that I wanted to take a break from our relationship because I'm losing feelings for him and I want to explore my sexuality, which is not true, and I've never even once told him something like this. My parents told them the truth and they reached out and apologized for what he did and told me that they support me as well. Also, one of the friends that suggested he tries to warm me up to the idea messaged a friend of mine and he basically said that he knows he messed up and that he's terribly sorry for suggesting that in the first place and for being a bad friend to me. I told my friend to just ignore him. I guess it's nice that he acknowledged his mistake, but I just don't feel like dealing with any of them anytime soon. Honestly, I'm trying to tell myself that he's not worth it, but it still hurts, and it feels awful. I thought we were both happy together and that I was enough for him, but I guess not. So yeah, that's about it. I'm slowly getting better and I have a lot of wonderful and supportive people around me, which helps a lot. I'll stay away from relationships for a while and just focus on myself. I will also try therapy like some of you kindly or not so kindly suggested. Thank you again to the kind strangers who were being supportive. I haven't replied to anyone, but I've read them. Thank you for listening to me. Now for more comments before reading the last update. Man, the fact that he lied to his family and tried to blame you is absolutely disgusting. This dude is just manipulative. It's awesome that you cut him off. I hope you go out into the world and live your best life. Exactly. He tried to blame her for the breakup. He is scum, a cheater and a liar. She is way better off without that. Good for you. You don't need therapy. You followed your instincts. You knew something was wrong and you walked away. You did nothing wrong. Be proud that you made a move to leave. You did the right thing. Yes, she does need therapy. This relationship was from the time she was 18. It's a huge breakup that she will need to work through. Also, if she has a very strong reaction to anything about cheating, it could damage any relationship she gets into in the future. Or she could start to be overly suspicious, accusatory, and not just to herself but to others around her. She needs to work on herself, the extreme heartbreak she's feeling, and getting over the only relationship she's had as an adult. I got therapy when my high school sweetheart husband left me, in the ER. It really helped me process everything in a healthy way, and it's very validating to be told that you are reacting normally. I think it was most valuable in analyzing my relationship and realizing that it was not actually healthy, but emotionally abusive. I processed that and learned what I do actually want in a relationship, how to set and hold boundaries, and how to navigate dating as an adult for the first time at 30. Now, I have an absolutely fantastic, healthy, mutually supportive, and communicative partnership with my fiancé. I would not have recovered from my trauma as quickly or healthily without my therapist. Just don't forget to get tested. I wish you well in your healing. I'm so sorry you went through this. You deserve a happy, healthy life and relationship, and I hope you have it all in your own time. Best of luck to you. I haven't even thought about that. I will get tested as soon as possible. Thank you for the advice. Now for the last update. Hello again. Some people have asked for a few more updates, and I'll also answer some frequently asked questions. First of all, as some people suggested, I got tested for STDs and I'm clean, thankfully. Second of all, I saw some people being mean to my ex's affair partner, but I'd like to ask you all to not think badly of her. She reached out to me because she wanted to apologize and tell me her side of the story. I agreed to meet her, and she told me what happened. Basically, she and my ex met a few months ago in a club. He was there having a bachelor party thrown for one of his friends. They met there and started talking. He told her he was single and they hooked up. After that, they remained in contact and occasionally hooked up. She showed me proof, their texts, and he had been lying to her about being single and not wanting a serious relationship. She enjoyed the thing they had going on and didn't want a relationship either. So they remained hump buddies, I guess? They met around 7 months ago, and around a month ago she found out she was pregnant. She told him that she wants to keep it, and that if he doesn't want to be in the kid's life, she's okay with it, but she's keeping it. He insisted on being in the kid's life, but came clean about being in a relationship with me. From then on, she told him that he needs to tell me the truth or she will tell me herself. So yeah, that's the backstory. She was really sweet and apologetic, and I really wish her and the baby nothing but the best. Hopefully the baby will take after their mother only. Now on to the questions. Why aren't we married after 7 years of dating? I already mentioned in a comment that I do not want to get married. I don't see the point in it, to be honest. I talked to him about this and he told me he is fine with it as he doesn't see the point in marriage either. Why don't we live together? We live in 2 separate places. Basically, my place is really close to my job. The job that I have required me to sometimes go there out of nowhere, but it pays really well. He is currently studying. I'm not sure what's called in English, but he's doing the studies you do after getting your master's degree. And his place is really close to his university. Neither of us were willing to give up on this advantage we had, so we decided to talk again about moving in together after he finishes his studies. One particular person has been quite nasty and said that no wonder he cheated on me, because I basically trapped him with false hope that one day we'd have a happy family. I'd like to say that I've always been open about my wishes regarding my future. He knew me and what I wanted as we've been friends before dating since our families are close. He told me 4 years that he is more than okay with what I want. I thought we were very open to each other. I've always voiced my complaints /wants/needs, and I've always encouraged him to do the same and vice versa. Like I already said, I thought our relationship was perfect. This might sound cold and witchy to some people, but even if I loved him, if I knew our views don't align, I wouldn't have committed to a 7-year-old relationship with him. I still haven't replied back to him or his friends yet, and I don't think I will. His parents are still very apologetic to me, and it kinda makes me feel bad since it's not their fault. They're extremely mad at him and stopped supporting him financially. I moved back in my place 2 days ago, and he thankfully stopped trying to reach out to me. I'm still not over it completely, as I've spent the last 7 years of my life loving him. But having a relationship, any kind of relationship, with him again is out of question. That's about it, I suppose. This will probably be the last thing I post regarding this situation. Thank you for listening to me rant, and thank you once again for the people giving me advice and being supportive. 7 months and lying about being single is not a mistake. How can you destroy all we've built together over one little mistake? That will now be my main focus in life. A constant reminder of your betrayal cost loads of money and changed our lives forever. The important thing was that she meant nothing to me, and yet she was worth jeopardizing our relationship. Friends got it right. I'm glad to see the last update to this. I'd followed the first couple in real time. I truly feel for the OP, having to see her boyfriend revealed as the trash he is. He tells the affair partner is single and starts banging her regularly and apparently without protection. Then decides to tell his girlfriend in the stupidest, most brain-dead method imaginable. And even then, lies about it being just the one time, which is not only biologically implausible, though not impossible, but is also absolutely going to get found out as a lie. when girlfriend inevitably speaks with the affair partner, says they would be co-parenting a kid even in his dream scenario. Oh, and then lies to his parents in a way that's going to be pretty obviously a lie when he shows up with a freaking baby. I'm baffled and enthralled by this man's mind. It's like art. The sheer audacity of thinking that his avowed child-free girlfriend, with trauma around cheating, would happily raise his affair baby? And that the baby's mother, who showed every inclination of wanting the child, would just not be around or something? I desperately want to hear him explain himself. It would be fascinating. Not only the ex-boyfriend, I would love to hear his idiotic friend's reasonings for why they told him to warm her up to the idea and bringing it up first as a hypothetical question. Good on the one guy for finally realizing how stupid all of them were, but I would love to know what was going through their minds. Or ask them if they had been OP in this scenario, would they have acted any different than her? Would they be alright with raising their partner's affair baby? My guess is no. PSA, it's okay to quietly hold out hope that someone will change their mind about liking pineapple pizza. It is not okay to hold out hope that they will change their mind about having kids. It is one of the main things a relationship needs to be on the same page about. Opie's ex is a clown on so many levels. My ex held out hope I'd change my mind. This was after I had my tubes tied. Same. I was so upfront and clear about wanting no kids and a lot of traveling. What do you know? My ex actually wanted to stay in one spot and raise kids, never really going anywhere, because life was for the children. Man, don't waste my time. Surprise. Mine eventually let slip that he wanted the option to have kids, and I broke up with him. Lo and behold, several months later when I was with someone else, he was suddenly fine with not having kids and wanted to get back together. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my daughter-in-law take my late husband's wedding ring? Original post. I'm a widow in my 60s. My husband passed away 10 years ago and I've kept his wedding ring in a little box with some of his things. It's nothing fancy, just a plain gold band, but it's one of the few things I still have that feels like him. Sometimes when I miss him, I take it out and hold it. It's been a real comfort over the years. My daughter-in-law, Jenna, has always commented on the ring when she visits. She'll say things like, "It's so timeless," or "I'd love to wear something with that kind of history." I thought she was just being nice, but last week, she came right out and asked if she could borrow it for a while. I didn't really know how to respond at first. She said wearing it would help her feel closer to the family and honor my husband. I told her I wasn't comfortable with that. The ring is so personal to me. It's not just something you loan out. It's a part of my memories with him. But Jenna didn't seem to understand. She got upset and said she didn't think I trusted her and that I was being selfish for keeping something so meaningful to our family locked away. She even said it would mean more to her to wear it than for me to just keep it in a box. My son didn't really say much at a time, but later I got a text from Jenna. It was long and emotional. She said she was hurt and that I was treating her like an outsider and that maybe I was too stuck in the past to see how much this would mean to her. She even hinted that I was being controlling, which honestly broke my heart. Now, some other family members are saying I'm overreacting and that is just a ring, but it doesn't feel that way to me. My husband and I were married for 35 years. That ring has been with me through everything. Good times, bad times, raising our kids. I don't want to sound dramatic, but it feels like a piece of him is still with me. I can't imagine letting it out of my sight. I'm starting to wonder if I'm being unreasonable though. Jenna seems to think I'm trying to shut her out, and the last thing I want is to cause tension in the family. I don't know if I should apologize or stick to my decision. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. She's not even related to your husband? Like a child requesting it, I can see, but it's her father-in-law's wedding ring. Lol, she can get lost. She has zero claim to it. Not the a-hole. I really appreciate your support. I've been feeling so conflicted, but it helps to hear that others understand how personal this is to me. I would buy a chain and start wearing it. That way you know where it is. Not the a-hole. WTF? Who are these family members saying your late husband's wedding ring is just another piece of jewelry? That's bananas. Not the a-hole, but your daughter-in-law and any family members encouraging this lunacy are. She was wildly out of line to ask for the ring. This is crazy. Even if it was her son/his son asking, that would be iffy and totally reasonable to say no. The wedding ring was a special symbol between you and your husband. No one else. This is wild. Also, if the ring isn't that big of a deal, then it's not a big deal to wear it. Can't have it both ways to those saying it's not a big deal. Daughter-in-law, while I appreciate that you want to form stronger bonds with our family, this isn't the way to do it. That ring isn't something I would ever loan out or give to anyone else. It is a symbol of my 35-year marriage to the love of my life. It was inappropriate for you to ask for it in the first place, and wildly inappropriate for you to react this way to me saying no. I really can't believe this even has to be said. Damn. Also, I would hide a ring when she or your son is over. Or wear it. Thank you for understanding. It's been such a hard thing to navigate. I feel awful for saying no to Jenna because I really do want her to feel part of the family. And I didn't mean to hurt her feelings. It's just that the ring is so deeply personal to me. Every time I look at it, it reminds me of my husband and all the years we spent together. I've been trying to think of ways to make it up to her or help her feel more connected, but I just don't know what to do without giving up something that means so much to me. I feel stuck, and the last thing I want is to cause tension. I didn't expect this to become such a big issue. It's honestly been weighing on me. Now for the update. Something really weird just happened, and I don't even know what to think. You know how Jenna's been acting strangely lately? The whole ring thing, getting rid of my late husband's belongings, and being obsessed with his ring? Well, let me tell you, this situation just got worse. Really, really bad. At 6 a.m. this morning, my son called me. He said he was worried about Jenna because she wasn't feeling well. He asked me to come over and sit with her. Honestly, I wasn't in the mood to deal with it and didn't even want to go, but since he asked, I figured I should do my part. When I got there, she was lying on the couch looking pale and shaky. She didn't look like herself at all. I immediately suggested taking her to the ER, but she snapped at me and insisted she was fine. When I told her she needed to see a doctor, she screamed at me to leave her alone and get out. She was clearly angry and didn't want me there at all. But I thought maybe I could at least help her feel more comfortable. I told her I was going to use the bathroom and then I'll leave her be. While washing my hands, I noticed the guest bedroom door was open. I didn't think much of it at first, but then I figured maybe I could grab her an extra pillow or something. She didn't seem to be resting well and could probably use something more comfortable. I wasn't trying to snoop, I was just trying to be helpful. But when I pulled a pillow down from the top shelf of the closet, I noticed something behind it, a box I'd never seen before. It looked out of place, like it had been shoved there or hidden. At first, I didn't recognize the box, but when I opened it, well, you're not going to believe what I found inside. First, there was my husband's old fishing hat. I thought we'd already gotten rid of all his old stuff when they helped me clean the house, but here it was, tucked away. Then there were some other random things. His old scratched-up sunglasses and a pack of Black & Milds. I'm certain I didn't buy them, but I know my husband used to smoke them occasionally. At the bottom of the box was a creased Polaroid photo. It was a picture of Jenna. She looked like she was in her late teens or early 20s, standing in front of a lighthouse I immediately recognized. It was a place we used to visit as a family, years before Jenna and my son even met. I have no idea why it was in there with my husband's things. I'm sitting here scratching my head because this is so confusing. Why would you keep these old things? And what is that picture doing in there? Jenna screamed at me to leave from the other room, and I was so startled that I put everything back and just left. I don't want her to find out I was snooping, but I can't stop thinking about it. I'm shaking. What just happened? That girl is your husband's affair child. I can't prove it, but my intuition strongly says no. There has to be another explanation. I'm working on figuring it all out as we speak. This is a seriously twisted update. The fact that Jenna has a picture of herself as a child in front of a lighthouse where you and your husband took your family is far too coincidental. The fact that Jenna is so obsessed with your husband's belongings and has this picture in a box of his secretly hidden items is very troubling. Is there any possibility that your husband and Jenna had a previous relationship before she met your son? Could he have dated her mother and been a father figure to her? Is it possible that your husband is her father? At this point, I would seriously wonder about the current relationship she has with your son and how random or coincidental their first meeting really was. All of this is adding up to some seriously twisted stalker vibes. If Jenna suspects you've discovered her secret box, she may try to relocate the evidence. Jenna sounds incredibly unstable, and I'm guessing your son will ignore your concerns unless you can gather more information or documentation about Jenna, your husband, and their past. For the sake of your son and the rest of your family, I suggest you hire a professional investigator to uncover what you might not be able to figure out on your own. It's all so unsettling. The picture by the lighthouse really got to me. It's such a personal memory for our family. People are saying my husband might have had some connection to Jenna's mother, but I just can't believe he'd stoop so low. All I know about her mother is that Jenna had a rough childhood, grew up in foster care, and isn't in contact with her. We've never even met her. The idea that Jenna somehow forced her way into my son's life feels too strange to ignore, but I don't even know where to start. Part of me doesn't want to dig deeper, but at this point, I might not have a choice. I hope she doesn't know I snooped or found her box, but now I'm worried she might move it, which is another reason I'm so unsure of how to confront the situation. Regardless of the truth, I can't imagine a scenario where Jenna would come clean, at least not in a calm and kind way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that my wife isn't spoiled, her husband just doesn't like her? I, 34 male, am married to the love of my life, Michelle, 31 female, and we've been together for 13 years, married for 11. My wife is chronically ill, and as soon as it was financially feasible, I suggested she quit her job and stay at home. Since then, I've become quite successful in my career, and I've encouraged her to get out of the house to pursue hobbies we didn't have the money, time, or energy for before. We are incredibly happy with the direction our life is going, and Michelle's mental and physical health has never been better. We split household chores according to how Michelle is feeling. On her good days, she'll usually do just about everything that needs to be done before I even get home. On days when her illness is acting up, a lot of it falls on me. I honestly don't mind. There isn't a whole lot for us to do on a day-to-day basis, besides laundry, dishes, cooking, and tending to the dogs. We have a housekeeper who comes once a week and handles most of the major stuff. I enjoy cooking, and on days she can't do anything, I typically only have about an hour's worth of chores. I also just generally like to spoil her and bring her home gifts and trinkets, encourage and financially support her hobbies, and take her on 2 weekly dates and vacations. I like seeing her happy. My sister, Karen, cannot wrap her head around this concept. Her husband, Bill, works in the same industry as me, making similar money. However, Bill does not treat Karen the way I treat Michelle. Bill won't let Karen be a stay-at-home wife. She frequently mentions how he rarely takes her on dates or brings her home flowers or gifts, how he isn't generous with his money, and how it should be their money. Despite this, she has always criticized my wife for being spoiled. Anytime I mention what my wife happens to be up to that day, example in a cooking class, golfing, painting, my sister gets huffy and makes comments about how lucky my wife must feel and how surprised she is that Michelle stays busy. If I mention ever having to do a single bit of housework, Karen talks about how selfish Michelle is for not doing her part, saying that cooking breakfast is the least my wife could do. If I tell my mother about the emerald earrings I bought Michelle, the spa day I sent her on, or the new recipe I'm making for her tomorrow, Karen makes comments about how our relationship isn't equal and that I'm being taken advantage of. Recently, at a family dinner that neither Bill nor my wife attended, I casually mentioned to my mom that after dinner, I needed to run a load of laundry so I'd have clean pants for work the next day. My wife was having a bad flare-up and had been confined to the couch. My sister scoffed and loudly said, "If she wasn't so spoiled, you wouldn't be coming home to a bunch of chores." I responded with, "My wife isn't spoiled. Your husband just doesn't like you," and asked her why she's forced to work if her husband makes as much as me. She got mad. My parents were irritated and I was asked to leave the dinner. My sister has since sent me texts calling me names, and my mother has reached out saying that what I said was insensitive and asking me to apologize. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister sounds bitter because her husband doesn't treat her with the same love and care you show your wife. And instead of addressing that, she's taking it out on you and Michelle. Honestly, she's projecting her frustrations. And while your comment was spicy, it seems like it hit a nerve because there's truth to it. She needs to stop comparing her marriage to yours and work on her own issues with Bill. You're just out here loving your wife and doing what works for your relationship. Chronic illness is not a choice. It's insensitive of your sister to dismiss your wife's health struggles and imply that she's selfish for not contributing equally to household chores when she's experiencing a flare-up. Not the a-hole for being honest. She's just jealous that you treat your wife the way she wants her husband to treat her. What I don't understand is why they're mad at you when she's the one constantly talking smack about your wife. Maybe they need to step back and think about why they're okay with how your sister speaks to you but not okay with what you said. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's parents to take care of dad's affair baby if he needs a babysitter because I won't? My parents are getting a divorce. 6 months ago, we found out dad has a kid 4 with someone else. Dad was cheating, probably a lot and with a ton of women if his reaction was anything to go by. My mom kicked him out, the house is hers, and said his kid wasn't allowed to live with us. Dad ended up moving into a place owned by his parents. They're wealthy. I, 16 male, don't see him. My siblings, 13 female, 12 male, saw him once, but the judge said we didn't have to go and see him. We don't want to see him, so we don't go. My dad's parents were never very present in our lives, but now they're acting like we were once close, and that we're punishing the whole family for what dad did. It started when dad texted me and asked me to babysit for him. I can't block him yet while court stuff is still ongoing. Apparently, a judge wouldn't look at that in a good light and could change the custody stuff if we ever sever all ties right now. Having his number unblocked is enough. I ignored his texts, and then his parents showed up at our house and told me I needed to babysit my sibling and spend time with them because we'll be family forever. I said no. They tried to argue, but I said I won't be in the kid's life, so there's no forever. I said I don't want to know the kid, or dad, or any of them. Then mom made them leave. Dad texted some more. We saved these messages and mom's lawyer documented them, but I ignored those too. Then his parents tried again, and I told them I don't want to take care of dad's affair baby. They can since they've got money and they want this kid. I said I don't, and that's not changing. They told me the child is innocent, and I said I know, but I don't go out of my way to get to know innocent kids I see in the world. And I'm not going to do it for this one either. They told me I'm still punishing a child who's my sibling, and that the kid will grow up wondering why their 3 half-siblings won't even speak to them. They also said I'd be paid for babysitting, which makes my stubbornness even worse. Am I the a-hole? Nope, not the a-hole. You've got freedom of choice, and you've made your choice. You did great telling your grandparents to watch the kid themselves if they're so bent out of shape about it. Next time, you should also tell them that it's not your fault or responsibility that their son threw his nice life in the toilet, and it's actually their fault for not raising him with better morals. Not the a-hole. They're right, the kid is innocent, but it seems they forgot you're a kid too. Not the a-hole. And in what way is the 16-year-old not babysitting punishing the kid? Ridiculous. It's punishing the adults who don't want to watch the kid either. They care about themselves, not opiate his siblings. Hopefully when the court stuff is over, the kids can all block their sperm donor and his parents and have peaceful lives going forward. Not the a-hole. Exactly as you say, this kid is a stranger to you, and innocent or not, is not part of your life. You have the right to decide who you have in your life, and it's perfectly reasonable not to want to have anything to do with this child. Opie and their full siblings are innocent too. They're not the ones who cheated on their spouse, but they're still being punished by having their family ripped apart. Forcing them to do extra chores, babysitting, is punishing them for something they didn't do. Update. Am I the a-hole for kicking my fiancé out after joking he got me pregnant on purpose? Original post. I, 27 female, have been with my fiancé, 26 male, for 3 years. We met while I was on holiday, and a few weeks later, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year, and a month later, I found out I was pregnant. We now have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year, and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily. After dinner, my mom and I were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for, and I overheard my fiancé telling my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant, before I realized what a D-head he was. They laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child, and we were using condoms. But after a few instances where a condom broke, I decided it would be safer to get on birth control. The first month on BC, I got pregnant. We were told that could happen, and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get one. I just didn't want one, so I decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company, and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't the reason I didn't want a baby. I just wanted to do more before starting a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said, and at first he claimed he didn't remember saying it, understandable because of how drunk he was. Then he said it was just a joke and was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said, okay, good, because we're getting a prenup. I was joking, but I also wanted to see his reaction. He was pissed. He said, why the heck would I sign a prenup? We have a baby together, a house together, and insisted he wouldn't sign one. He argued that we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and claimed that even mentioning a prenup was insulting and emasculating. I didn't feel threatened, but he made me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up. So I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out, he sent me a long, apologetic message saying it was out of character for him to get loud, which is true. He's never acted like that before. I replied, thanking him for the apology, but said I needed a day or two to think everything through. The next day, he sent a bouquet to the apartment. On Sunday, he sent me a booking confirmation for a massage at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight, he messaged me saying I'm being an a-hole and taking a meaningless joke to heart. He also said he's wasting money on a hotel that he could be saving for the wedding. Now, things that went over my head before are starting to seem suspicious. But breaking up my family over this doesn't feel right. Am I overthinking this or being an a-hole? Edit. A lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup, I wasn't being serious. Maybe I was being an a-hole trying to get a reaction, but based on our 3 years together, I never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago, he lost his job. He was never clear on why, and for the next 3 to 4 months, he didn't do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next. That was the first time he brought up having kids, saying he was ready. I had a candid conversation with him explaining that I wanted kids, but not anytime soon. I enjoy my job, I had trips planned, and I wanted to be married first. He agreed we should wait 3 to 4 years. My dad's company got a contract at a club, which is how he got his job there. But during the time he was out of work, my friends joked that he was a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I was the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad. At the time, it didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal. But I guess it was my friends' jokes that first made me question things. About the condoms breaking, I don't know how long they're breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had that happen. The first time I noticed, it looked like it had split. Then I checked the next time and it was also broken, which is when I decided to get an IUD. He didn't want me to get one, but I stood my ground, and we compromised by having me go on a pill. I know we should have continued using rubbers, but he said he'd run out and insisted I didn't need them because I was on a pill. In hindsight, I should have insisted we still use them, but I chose not to have that battle. I thought would be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise, my family is successful. I work for my dad's company and I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I got pregnant, I was planning to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home with flexible hours, but he said that once we're married, he wants me to stop working to focus on our kids and that he'll support us. I've never liked that idea. My parents always taught me the importance of financial stability, and my mom always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus, I'm not sure my fiancé's current salary would cover all our expenses. The only reason I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship, and I don't want to blow everything up over what might be an overreaction on my part. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. He is love bombing you. Make a prenup mandatory along with anger management and couples therapy if you choose to stay with him. Don't add him to any documents. What is yours. Create the trust for your child's inheritance and appoint someone other than him to be in charge of it. Talk to your dad and see what he says. Love bombing and then throws a tantrum when it doesn't work the way he wants. Great advice to protect yourself and your child. If he's going to be with you forever, then what does a prenup matter? I agree with other commenters. Seriously pursuing a prenup, which you 1000% should do anyway, will reveal how much of a joke your ties together really are. Prenups protect both parties. When you talk, I think you should ask him what his real serious issue is with a prenup, especially since it would also protect his assets in case of separation. If you're never going to separate, then why would having one even make a difference to him? He should feel so confident in his ability to love you and make this relationship last that some hypothetical future where you aren't together shouldn't even be a concern. Not the a-hole, and you're not overthinking. The time to talk about finances and your future together is now, not after the wedding. Not the a-hole. It's not about the joke. It's about how it made you feel. His reaction and dismissal of your feelings were concerning. You have every right to take a step back and think things through. Now for the update. I-23 female made a post last week about a joke my fiancé 26 male made at Thanksgiving while drunk. For those who haven't seen my older post, he joked that he got me pregnant to tie me down, and I didn't know what to make of it, so I posted here to get outside opinions. I initially didn't want to talk to my friends or family about it, because they're all quite close to him and I didn't want to make a mountain of a molehill and cause a rift in their relationships. Yesterday, we had a conversation about where I was at. He said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He had stopped smoking while I was pregnant but said I was stressing him out. He insisted he had to stay at the apartment. While I was on the phone with one of my friends in the bedroom, he came in, took the phone from me, and told me to come eat. While we were eating, he said he understood what I had said and that things needed to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone throughout the conversation made me uneasy. I texted my dad, saying he was making me uncomfortable when my fiancé wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby, and when I came back, I saw him take my keys out of my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed instead of the couch as we had agreed, like everything was normal. I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come get us. My dad arrived at the apartment around 5 a.m. while my fiancé was still sleeping, and we left. My son and I are now at my parents' house. My fiancé has been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent him a text as we were driving off, saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to figure everything out. I told him he could stay in the apartment and I'd stay at my parents' house. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents, who have paid for the wedding, have said they don't care if I want to cancel it, but I feel bad. I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and messaged me privately. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse, that would be awful. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars, I'll feel guilty. And if we break up altogether, we just got a house together. We're both on a mortgage, and we have joint accounts. Being without him for good is also scary. He sounds crazy, and not the type of person you'd want to spend your life with. Not the a-hole. What he said was really insensitive. Getting a woman pregnant on purpose, especially when it's not planned and you made it clear you didn't want that, is a serious matter. I believe you should seek legal advice. Though I'm no expert, you're not the a-hole. You did the right thing. Warm hugs to you. I hope you figure it out. It wasn't a joke. It's what he actually did. He just accidentally said it out loud too early because he thought he had her locked down. Your dad is freaking awesome. He really is. The fact that he jumped in the car immediately to drive 6 hours also shows how much of a douche your fiancé is perceived to be by others. Your dad was probably thinking, finally, the rose-colored glasses have fallen. OP, stay gone. This guy's bad news. He got you pregnant, laid down the law, and hid your car keys. Don't feel bad about your parents losing money over the wedding. From what you've told us about his latest stunt and your friends' commentary about him, trust us, they are pleased as punch that he finally revealed himself to you in terms you can't ignore. I'm guessing you've been biting their tongues, but despite their concerns, chose to respect and support your choices. The money is insignificant compared to the emotional and psychological price you would have paid by staying in this abusive relationship. They said they didn't like how we were getting so serious so fast, or how he moved into my apartment. But then I got pregnant and they didn't want to seem unsupportive. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my daughter's grandparents take her this Christmas? I, 30 female, am the single mother of Clara, 2 female. My pregnancy wasn't planned. I had a no-strings-attached relationship with her father Jack, 30s male, for 7 months when I became unexpectedly pregnant. He lived in another state but visited my city monthly for business, and we hit it off after meeting in a bar. We considered our options regarding the pregnancy, but I decided to keep the baby. Jack wanted to be part of her life, so we planned to raise her together as co-parents, not as a couple. Unfortunately, Jack passed away during my pregnancy. Jack's parents, Linda and James, knew I was pregnant when he passed. We had already done a prenatal paternity test at the time. We are all devastated by his passing, but his parents, understandably, were destroyed. Clara's their first and only grandchild, and they say she became their beacon of light in a dark time. Jack's parents have 2 other daughters, Ruth, 37 female, and Lily, 27 female. Ruth has been trying to conceive for a long time, and Lily's child-free and single. Jack's entire family lives in another state with the exception of Lily, who lives abroad. They have a family business and strong ties to their hometown, while I have my family and career in my current city where I live with Clara. Since Clara was born, we've had an informal visitation agreement. They usually visit Clara twice a month, with James and Linda being the most frequent visitors, and Ruth occasionally joining them. I genuinely appreciate their presence in Clara's life. A recurring point of contention has been traveling to their state. They have a large family property that has been in their family for over 100 years, and they wanted Clara to experience her heritage. While I understand the importance of this, I have always firmly refused to allow them to travel with Clara without me. I have visited their hometown 3 times with Clara since she was born, but apparently this isn't enough. While our relationship was mostly civil, there were issues with Linda meddling in my parenting. Things became more tense after I started dating Ted, 34 male, a year ago. Ted and I don't live together, but he has a daughter Marie, 4 female, who lives with him. Linda has expressed disapproval of Ted's constant presence in my house, which is untrue. We see each other 3 to 4 times a week due to our busy schedules. She's also commented on Marie's playdates and sleepovers with Clara, as well as even trivial things like Ted's car parked in front of my house. 2 weeks ago, I emailed Linda, James, and Ruth to invite them for Christmas Eve. Ted and I are hosting a get-together with our families and close friends. I let them know they could also take Clara for lunch on Christmas Day if they preferred. The next day, Linda texted me to say they already had plans to take Clara to their home for Christmas. I told her that was not happening. I didn't hear from her for 2 days until she called and said she gave me time to cool off and be reasonable. She claimed they had waited long enough to take Clara home for Christmas and that now that Clara's older, she can travel without me. I told her that wasn't something we had discussed and that I wouldn't allow them to take my daughter on a trip without talking to me first. Linda argued that this call was discussion. I laughed and told her she was delusional. Things escalated quickly. She accused me of trying to replace Jack in Clara's life, and I said some harsh things about Jack never having met Clara. After Linda hung up, James called to reason with me. He let it slip that they had purchased Clara's plane ticket 2 months ago without asking me. I told him there was no way and let them walk all over me. James lost his temper and demanded I apologize to Linda or they would take me to court. I told him they were the ones choosing to fight, not me. After some silence from them, I was served with court papers. They're suing me for custody of Clara, claiming I am unfit as a mother. I already have a lawyer who has assured me they have almost no chance of getting custody. At most, they might get visitation rights. Still, I'm worried about this turning into a long legal battle. Some clarifications. 1. How do Linda and James know details about my life? They visit at least twice a month. They pick up and drop off Clara at my house, which is how Linda noticed Ted's car parked in my driveway. She commented on it because, in my gated community, only homeowners are allowed to park there. They also used to FaceTime Clara 3 times a week, during which they saw Marie during playdates or sleepovers. 2. Did they expect Clara to travel alone? No. James said they planned to fly to my city, take Clara with them, and bring her back after a week. Clara was never meant to travel alone. 3. Do I think they would kidnap her? I don't know. Their behavior has made me paranoid. James claimed they bought her return ticket, but I don't trust their word anymore without proof. 4. Do I still have contact with them? No. My lawyer advised me to cut all visits and video calls and communicate only through lawyers. If they text or email me, I forward it to my lawyer. Thank you for your advice and support. Clara and I lived in a very secure community with cameras and armed security. Nobody will take her from me. Now for the top comments. Absolutely not the a-hole. Clara's your child. The idea of a 2-year-old traveling without her mother is asinine. You were very kind to encourage their relationship with your daughter. However, they are taking things way too far. They will not get custody. Do not allow them any contact with Clara. They may try to take her. They've made their intentions clear. Any further communication with them will be twisted and used against you. Congratulations on your new relationship. You deserve happiness and peace. Thank you for validating my feelings. Just as a heads up, I would bet money they'll call a false CPS case on you. Talk to your lawyer about the possibility and what you can do to be proactive before it starts. Not the a-hole. They bought plane tickets 2 months ago without asking you? That's not planning ahead. That's delusional. You are Clara's mom, not some vacation rental they can book on Airbnb. Exactly. That's what ticked me off the most. Who does that with someone else's child? They act like Clara's their child, not mine. Update. I found out the actual reason my mom lost custody of me, and I don't know if I can ever look at her again. Original post. I was removed from my mother's care by DCFS when I was 11 years old due to allegations of SA post against my stepfather. He was convicted by those crimes, but took a plea deal which meant he'd be out by the time I was 13. And from what I can remember, I don't even know that he served those 2 full years anyway. I was his primary victim. I don't remember how old I was when it started, but the earliest he admitted to was when I was 8. I don't know if my mom knew before DCFS got involved or if she found out afterwards, but now I don't think it would have mattered to her if she was aware. After being put into temporary custody of the state while the legal issues were sorted out, eventually I was placed with a relative and her husband, who later adopted me when it was clear my mother wouldn't be getting me back. My adoptive parents put me in therapy, got me the help I needed, did everything they could to make me feel safe again. Something they never prevented me from was speaking to my mother. I was always able to call or text her, and she was always allowed to come visit me, but I could never go and see her. I didn't really question it as a kid. I assumed it was some stipulation the courts made. I believed growing up that the reason my mom hadn't gotten me back was because of neglect, I guess. I assumed that the court thought it was partly her fault, that I had been left unattended with that man so often, or that it took someone else noticing I was physically injured for something to be done about it. My adoptive parents never challenged these assumptions I had, and they always told me that they would never stop me from having a relationship with my mom, so long as that's what I wanted. Once I turned 18, my mom and I started talking more frequently, but we didn't see each other in person often. I never really thought much of it at first, but as the years went by, I started questioning the circumstances of my removal and subsequent adoption. I was confused as to why a woman with no prior issues with the law would have had her child taken from her in such a cut and dry way. I decided to ask my adoptive parents about it, and they very gently informed me that my mother was told that in order for her to regain custody of me, her husband, my abuser, would be required to leave the home and could not under any circumstances come near me. Not only because he was an offender, but because I was the victim. My mother evidently could not meet these conditions, and so I was adopted by my relatives. When I worked up the courage to ask my mom if it was true, she didn't deny it. She told me she loved him, that he was a good man who made a mistake. They said that she could have her daughter or she could stay with her husband, and she chose him. She picked him over me. I don't even know what to do with the things I'm feeling now. I feel sick just thinking about it. She's my mother, and she knew what he did. He was convicted of sexually abusing her 11-year-old child, and she refused to leave him. For the past 12 years, she has willingly slept in a bed next to the man that assaulted her daughter. She has stayed married to the man who hurt me. My adoptive parents said they were advised by the therapist to let me figure it out in my own time, as my mother, despite picking that man over me, never made any move to have me near him again. She just wasn't willing to make him leave so that I could be with her. Evidently, the therapist thought it would be more detrimental in the long run to keep me from communicating with my mother entirely. None of that makes me feel better. The past few days have felt like a nightmare. I don't understand how she could stay with him. I don't understand why she chose a monster over her child. I'm trying to understand why my adoptive parents didn't tell me, but to be honest, I don't really understand their reasoning either. My mom has been texting me, but I haven't answered. I can't even think about her without feeling nauseous, or so angry I want to cry, or both. My adoptive parents keep checking in on me, but I've only answered the phone for them because I don't want them to drive here out of concern. I really don't even know what to do anymore. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your adoptive parents consulted with medical professionals on how to deal with this. They took that advice because they didn't want to cause you more harm and because they love you. They were putting you first because you were their priority over their own feelings. How do I know that? Because I had a family member in a similar situation. It ripped them to pieces every time their child had contact with a parent that refused to protect them, knowing that child was being harmed repeatedly. Everything your adoptive parents did, they did it out of love for you, no matter how hard it was on them. I will be honest, I don't understand people like your mother. Children should be protected at all costs. At the very least, you need time and distance from her. You may be able to forgive her, but don't trust her. If it were me, that relationship would be over. If you're not in counseling still, then please find counseling. This is a horrendous thing to deal with, and just too hard for a person to do on their own. Sending good thoughts and wishes for your healing. Thank you. I really appreciate this perspective. I know they made choices for me based on what they thought would help me most in the end. This is just such an, I don't know, insane thing to try and process. I feel like I'm kind of losing it. I don't understand my mother either. I don't know how she's able to sleep at night knowing the things that man did. I can't wrap my mind around it. I do have a therapy appointment coming up soon, unrelated to this specific part of my situation, so I'm going to have professional help in dealing with this. I'm just feeling really lost and overwhelmed right now. One of the most disturbing things is that your mom calls her husband sexually assaulting you for years since you were 8 years old a mistake. her husband made a mistake, and that's a profound level of delusional belief because it was his decision to violate you for years and only stopped because the authorities were involved. The crime is not a mistake, it's a planned, premeditated decision. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that part. The way she called it a mistake, said that he is a good man. She dismissed it as though he didn't make a conscious choice to go into my bedroom every night for 3+ years, like it was an accident, or somehow unintentional. The good man she's married to is a predator who will be on the registry for the rest of his life for the things he did to me. I assumed my mother would have loved me enough to at least acknowledge the severity of what my stepfather had done. Evidently, I was wrong. Are you mad at your adoptive parents for not letting you know you were sexually assaulted? What would you have preferred they do instead? As far as your mom, don't talk to her again because she clearly doesn't love you. I'm not mad at my parents. I'm just having a hard time processing their choice not to tell me my mother remained married to my abuser all these years. I've spent all this time trying to connect with her in some way. But if I had known that she had chosen over a decade ago to stay with a predator instead of get me back, I think I would have cut my losses much sooner. I don't really know how I feel about it right now, but I'm not really mad at them. I know they did their best. Also, they didn't have to inform me that I was abused. Believe me, I was/am very aware. Now for the update. I guess I wanted to write a little bit of an update. I didn't expect so many people to see the post. Honestly, I just needed to vent, and I didn't want to dump any of that on my friends or family. I had a therapy session earlier in the week, so I was able to bring this revelation up to my therapist, and we're going to work on ways to help me process this. That's obviously something that's going to take time, but I'm sure eventually I'll find a way to live with it. Right now, I still don't know how to unpack any of the feelings I have about this. I do understand why my adoptive parents went about it the way they did. In the moment, being given that information was just a lot to comprehend and deal with, and I felt betrayed. Not necessarily by them, but I think I did put some of those feelings onto them. That wasn't really fair, and I did try to apologize, but they aren't upset with me for it. They told me they felt I didn't have anything to be sorry for. They know firsthand how difficult this is for me, and they told me they were already expecting the reaction I had. My adoptive mom said that if she had been in my shoes, she would have been upset too, even if that feeling wasn't entirely directed at the right people. I did speak to them about how I felt and ask if they could tell me a little more about why they decided to handle it the way they did. They said that when they got custody of me and saw all the ways the trauma from my early childhood manifested, they wanted to do everything they could to make sure I would be able to grow up as cared for and well-adjusted as possible. When the therapist encouraged them not to tell me the truth or challenge my belief that I'd been removed from my mom because of neglect, they followed that advice. The doctors and my parents thought it was best for me to realize and understand my mother's choice on my own. They said I had already been failed by so many adults in my life who were supposed to protect me, and they didn't want to add to that list. My adoptive dad also mentioned wanting me to be able to enjoy at least part of my childhood without a revelation like that hanging over my head. Looking back on it all, I really appreciate that. I don't remember much of my childhood up until I was placed in my adoptive parents' custody, and what I can remember isn't great, but the childhood they gave me made up for that in spades. I know the choices my adoptive parents made for me were made with my best interest in mind. I love them, and I know everything they did was out of love for me too. I feel like people misinterpreted what I was saying in my last post about my feelings toward them, so I just wanted to clarify that part. Regarding my mother, I essentially told her that I wasn't interested in speaking again, given everything I know now. I don't know how she took it because I've since blocked her number. My parents have agreed to reiterate that message from me if she contacts them, but I don't think she will. I'm never reaching out to her again. I can't do it. I think part of me is always going to wonder why she did the things she did. But based on all the answers she's given to my questions so far, I'm not sure her honesty would be very helpful to me in the long run. Thank you for your words of encouragement and kindness. I really needed them in that moment, and I truly appreciate you all for it. Proud of you. I'm glad everything worked out. Keep your mom out of your life. Finally, we have a post where the kids treating the adoptive parents with love and respect. I didn't read your first post until I saw this edit. I look at my precious 2-year-old and I really can't understand what parents wouldn't get rid of people who would hurt their precious one. I held my little one as a potato, saw him take his first steps, watch him develop and grow. My heart hurt earlier today when my toddler hit me unintentionally in the mouth and I yelped loudly in pain and saw his little lip quiver as he started to cry. I held him so tightly because even though he hurt me, he felt it more. I would get rid of anyone who hurt my son. I'd have to fight off any murderous rage. Your birth mom failed you massively. I'm glad you've got your adoptive family. Last story. Am I the a-hole for laughing when my mom said she'd hope I would care for my stepdad in his old age? For some context, my mom broke up our family when I was 6 and my brother was 11 to be with my stepdad. Our dad moved to a neighboring state, and we only got to see him every other weekend. I've only connected all these details as an adult. My brother and I are now both in our 30s, and my dad didn't share details of the divorce until the last few years. To say I lost a lot of respect for my mom and stepdad is an understatement. My mom chose to replace our dad with an angry alcoholic and thought we'd make a big, happy family. Hint, it never happened. I forgive them, it was years ago, but the respect is gone. Growing up with them was stressful and like walking on eggshells. If I had a disagreement with my stepdad, my mom would come home and only talk to him about what happened before giving me a punishment. The day my brother graduated high school, he moved out. We both had nothing but disdain for my stepdad. He got drunk every single day and was mean. Not physically, but verbally. I'll never forget being called a whore for going on a date with my boyfriend or the time we followed a young woman to her home after she flipped us off on the road. After I became an adult and got married at a young age, our relationship improved. I've now been married for almost 13 years, and we have 2 little girls together. When my stepdad comes to our house, we get along great. When we went back to their home for Thanksgiving a few years ago, it was very stressful. Many parts of me felt like I was stepping back into high school again. Fast forward to a conversation I had with my mom recently. We were discussing children taking in their parents in their old age. Something I might add, my mom never did for my grandma after my grandpa died. Why? Because my stepdad couldn't live with her. None of her other 3 kids took her in either, and she managed okay, passing away in her own home with my mom and aunts at her side. Anyhow, we were discussing this subject and how many parents might be taken in by their children after their spouses pass away. For example, my mom coming to stay with us after my stepdad passes away, my mother-in-law, or my dad, etc. She said she hopes that if she passed away, I would consider taking my stepdad in if he were elderly. I actually laughed out loud before even considering how my reaction might hurt her feelings. First of all, even if it were my own dad, I would prefer to take in one of our moms if I'm going to be a primary caregiver. And of course, if we never actually took anyone into our home, we would still help and support them however we could. But my mom expecting this of me with my stepdad? What magical land is this where irony doesn't exist? I have never considered him a father figure. He played a huge role in breaking apart my family at a young age and refused to take in my terminally ill grandma when she needed it most. So am I the a-hole for laughing? How did she react? And how did she not know this man made your lives miserable under her roof? Her eyes widened in shock. I immediately said, "Sorry, didn't mean to laugh that loud, but we basically already called dibs on my mother-in-law." She changed the subject, thank God. And she knew we all hated each other. She dated him for 5 years before marrying him, and she had plenty of chances to prioritize her kids, but she never did. If she prioritized her kids, she would have honored her original vows to my dad. OP, I think you need to take a serious look at your relationship with your mom. You say the relationships have gotten better after you moved out and got married. Isn't that because they can no longer control you the way they did when you were a child? Your mom clearly still does not respect you, and she won't even acknowledge the abuse they both perpetrated. They're better when they come to you, but when you got to their house, where they feel in control, they become abusive again. Why do you want your children to have a relationship with 2 abusers and 1 alcoholic? I strongly suggest getting some counseling to unpack your feelings about this. You say you forgave them, but did you really acknowledge your own feelings and hurts? Or did you just bury it all for the sake of keeping the peace? Forgiveness is not reconciliation. Do you have a daughter? What will you do when he calls her a whore? My mom and stepdad are not on the list of people who are allowed to watch our children, which frankly is a small opportunity because they don't live in our state. They've offered a few times to let my husband and me take a weekend trip, and we have declined. They also know that my husband's brother and sister-in-law are our kids' godparents. We also don't visit their house anymore because of the Thanksgiving experience. So far, it's working out, and they don't mind coming here. Generally, they're on their best behavior because other families always around with us. I might seek a counselor because, besides venting to my husband, I really don't know how to come to terms with how I feel about them after learning the whole truth about their relationship. I often think if my mom makes the wrong comment or pushes me too far one day, I might unload on her. No, you're not the a-hole. Given your history with him and your mom's request, it's understandable to laugh at something that feels so ironic. I agree, not the a-hole. Your mom's request is pretty out there considering the history between you and your stepdad. Honestly, she was pushing her luck even asking if you'd take her in. But to ask it for a man who is neither a blood relation nor a father figure and made your childhood miserable is absurd. Not the a-hole. At all. You deserve to keep your home a safe haven for yourself.